The UFC kicks off the new year with their first ever Paramount Plus card. Goodbye ESPN, goodbye pay-per-views. This is a numbered event, but you no longer have to pay the hefty pay-per-view price to watch the main card and watch the main event, and that is very exciting because not only do you save some money, but we're also kicking off the new year with back-to-back numbered events. Rarely would the UFC ever do that, but they're kicking off the new year with UFC 324, UFC 325. And you know what numbered events means? That means we're getting title fights. And we got 2 title fights in the first card. We got Justin Gaethje taking on Paddy Pimblett for the interim lightweight title. Ilia Topuria taking a back seat. Says he's got to figure some stuff out with his wife, his ex-wife, whatever she is. They got to figure it out. Co-main event, we got the return of the women's GOAT. Amanda Nunes coming back to fight the unstoppable force, Kayla Harrison. And in the feature bout, we got Sean O'Malley coming off back-to-back losses to Murad Dvalishvili, looking to bounce back against Song Yadong. We got a ton of other great fights on the card. Arnold Allen taking on Jean Silva, Waldo Cortes Acosta taking on Black Beast, Derek Lewis, Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Davison Figueiredo. I'm going to go through all the fights. I'm going to give you a breakdown for them. I'll give you my early pick, my early lean, but I'm filming this on the 14th of January, so that's 10 days before the event. Maybe some new information comes out. Maybe I want to switch my pick. So, of course, as usual, if you're a returning viewer to the channel, you know I got my most confident picks usually a couple days leading up before the fights actually do take place. Please, I'm almost at 30,000 subscribers, so if you're new here and you're not already subscribed, please hit the subscription button for me. Like the video while you're here. I feel great to be back in this seat breaking down some fights. And this year of 2026, it's going to be a great year because we've had a great past 3 years. Check out these results from the past 3 years. Positive 44.76 units on betting UFC in 2023, over 100 units in 2024. And last year, we couldn't get to that 100-unit mark, but we did hit 86.4 units in net profit in 2025. So 3 straight years in the profit. We're trying to make it 4. And of course, I'm giving you free game here on the YouTube channel every single week. But if you want all my bets, jump on the Home of Fight Picks premium membership. Use code HeyJive. Get you a 5-day free trial. Let's get into the fights. To start us off in 2026, they're going to give us Adam Fugitt taking on Ty Miller. Now, that's not exactly the fight that I would line up as the first fight of 2026, but somebody's got to do it, and they chose these guys. Fugitt comes in at plus 295. Ty Miller sitting at minus 360. Ty Miller coming off the Dana White's Contender Series. This dude actually has me blocked. A little bit of a side tangent to start off this breakdown. Ty Miller, when I was doing my research for his fight of the Contender Series, I like to look at guys' Instagrams, and I couldn't find it. I was seeing it on Google, and then I click on it, and it said it wasn't available. But it looked like he was posting recently. So I checked with some guys, and I did confirm Ty Miller has me blocked. So that didn't really make me like him. I don't know what I did for him to block me, but he did. And nonetheless, I did think he was going to win his Dana White Contender Series fight, and he did. Pretty dominant win. I wouldn't say it was like a, holy shit, this guy's going to be really good type of win, but the guy's young. He's 25. He's got a big frame for the division, 6'2", solid reach, very solid boxing, and just a very composed, economical approach to his striking. He's not going to have a ton of big movements. He's just going to be very balanced on his feet. He's going to walk forward, use his jab, throws a ton of jabs, a lot of 1-2s, not a ton of kicks, but he can mix them in. And his takedown defense on tape, if you watch the tape, is not really that great, but he does work to get back up very quickly. Rarely is it where guys are able to hold him down for long periods of time, because when he does get taken out, he pops back up, and then he's in your face, and then he's back to that methodical, economical type of striking. Adam Fugitt, 2-3 in the UFC, 2-3 in his last 5. He's 37 years of age. He just got knocked out by Islam Dulatov. His losses in the UFC really aren't that bad. If you look at them, it's Michael Morales, it's who's the Canadian? Mike Malott. It's Mike Malott, Michael Morales, and then last time out, Islam Dulatov. His wins, you can't really say are that great either. So this is a guy that's beating the lower level of the echelon of the UFC, but then they give him a tougher matchup, and he gets smoked. Got smoked by Malott, got smoked by Dulatov, and he got smoked by Michael Morales. So at 37 years of age, am I going to predict him to come in here and have some resurgence in 2026? No. I don't think it's going to start out well for him. I don't think his durability is going to get better. We've seen him get chinned by some questionable shots. He's kind of an awkward striker, southpaw, likes to throw his body kick. He kind of likes to spam his body kick against his orthodox opponents. And he's not really much of a take you down, like wrestle, grappler you. And I think that's kind of what he's got to do here to Ty Miller. I think Ty Miller is just going to be able to find his range and find his shots and eventually clip the chin of Adam Fugitt. So I understand why Ty Miller's the favorite here. It is pretty wide. He's not like a super experienced 25-year-old, 6-0, but the thing I do like for him is that he's been to 4 decisions. It's not like he's some 25-year-old who's 6-0 and knocking out bums on the regional scene in the first round. He's fought some decent level of opposition. You know, he's had to go through some adversity. So even if Fugitt does start to have some success early on, I don't think Ty Miller's going to like bitch away from it. He's kind of just going to try to figure you out. And I don't really see him gassing out. He's got great cardio. I don't think he's got chin issues. I don't really think he's got grappling issues that Adam Fugitt's going to be able to exploit. So give me Ty Miller for the early pick. I don't see that one changing, but give me the youth here. Give me the overall higher trajectory of a UFC career. Adam Fugitt at this stage is probably on the last fight of his contract, probably going to get cut, and that's probably why they gave him the young guy in Ty Miller for Ty Miller's UFC debut. Moving on, we got a bantamweight bout here. Ricky Turcios taking on Cam Smotherman. Another terrible fight. I think it's a terrible fight, but it might turn out to be okay because Ricky Turcios seems to be that guy that can turn a boring fight into an exciting one in the blink of an eye because the guy is extremely awkward. He's coming in as a plus 175 dog against Cam Smotherman. Smotherman minus 205. I didn't think I would see the day or Cam Smotherman's minus 205 against anybody, to be honest. I mean, he's 1-2 in his UFC career. His win was on short notice in his debut against Jake Hadley, where he cashed as a huge dog. And then he lost to Sarhi City in a somewhat competitive fight. It really wasn't, though, as the fight progressed. Sarhi City just kind of used his takedowns and overall strength to smother Smotherman, no pun intended. And then he lost to Ricky Simone, which Ricky Simone, it was just levels above him in the wrestling and overall UFC experience. So a couple of tough fights for Smotherman, but the guy's 28. I don't really think he's like improving at a rapid rate. He's going to go out there and do the same thing that he does every single time, which is use his boxing and his cardio and his pressure to win fights. Can he do that to Ricky Turcios? Probably, but I wouldn't be so sure. Because Ricky Turcios, to me, is kind of a wild card. He's kind of one of these guys similar to an Adam Fugitt, where his losses aren't really that terrible, but his wins aren't anything at all. He lost to Sopai his last time out, then got choked out by Raul Rosas Jr., and then his other losses to Ahmed Zahabi. Like, those are 3 solid fighters. But then his wins are like Natividad. And he does have a win over Brady Heastan, which seems like a good win, but we haven't seen Brady Heastan fight in a long time. So I'm not really sure where to put Ricky Turcios, but when I watch him fight, it just seems like he can win fights by being there and being active because I don't think he's talented. I don't think he's talented at all. Like, it's not like you watch his striking. There's no process to it. He's kind of just throwing these like weird punches, weird kicks at different angles, and I think that throws guys off. And then he's also tough. He's a decent grappler. And if you do try to grapple him, like, he's going to make you work. He's not going to just settle on bottom position and start trying to throw up triangles. He's going to try to get back to his feet. He's going to be slapping you the whole time. So he kind of wins fights by just being there and being active. And he could do that to Cameron Smotherman. Because the thing with Cameron Smotherman is he's so one-dimensional. So one-dimensional. The guy doesn't kick. The guy doesn't shoot offensive takedowns. He's just kind of there boxing with you. And what guys have done to him is either grapple him or hit him with big shots and then grapple him. And most of the time, guys are grappling him because they don't want to box with him. Because even though he's mostly boxing, he does have a pace and a pressure on you that kind of forces you to box with him because he's so front foot heavy. So then guys wrestle him, and he's just not really there with the wrestling. Is Turcios on the level to wrestle him, though, is my question. And I think that's really what the fight comes down to. Can Ricky Turcios implement some grappling to give himself a separation between what Cameron Smotherman wants to do? And I'm just not confident to say that he does. Could he have moments? Probably. Could he land a takedown? I'm sure he probably could. Could he get the back one time? I'm sure he probably could. But is he going to finish the fight? That's where the question lies. And is he going to be able to win 2 out of 3 rounds? I can't really say confidently, so I'm going to early pick Cameron Smotherman. But at the current odds at minus 205, I would not be laying that on a guy that I think is very one-dimensional and struggles to kind of separate himself. He does seem like he's in like close fights for more often than not is he in close fights. And of course, he does have some chin concerns of himself. He got knocked out by Charlampus Gregorio on the Dana White Contender Series. I'll never forget that because we saw what Gregorio did in the UFC and it wasn't good. So I'll take Cameron Smotherman for the early pick, but I laid out a lot of reasons why you should not be betting him at minus 205. Heavyweights. So we got my man, Josh Hokit, coming in as a minus 230 favorite, taking on Denzel Freeman, coming back at plus 195. Now, if you watched my predictions live stream with Big Gun Petrie, I'm pretty high on Josh Hokit this year. And I think this is a solid matchup. Because Denzel Freeman, in his UFC debut, underperformed from what I thought he could be. And he had the worst opposition in front of him, and he did absolutely nothing. So now that he's stepping in against Josh Hokit, a guy that's actually capable, I think Hokit is going to make him pay for that. Denzel Freeman, 7-1 in his professional career. His only loss was to Isaiah Pinson. And if you go back and watch that fight, it was not a good look because Isaiah Pinson's not the best heavyweight. He's not the worst, but he's not the best. And Pinson was giving him some troubles. Now, Freeman's got to win over Steven Asplin, which I'm sure many people are going to throw out there as some, amazing win, which has aged pretty well. But I don't think Steven Asplin is that amazing of a fighter. I just think he's got solid cardio for a heavyweight. He's pretty tough, and he can outwork a lot of these guys. And Denzel Freeman was able to match that and kind of outwork him, and then eventually did submit him in the second round. Freeman, to me, is just not going to be on the wrestling level of Josh Hokit. Freeman's an Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler, but in MMA, Greco-Roman wrestling does not exactly translate because you need to get in the clinch, and then you are basically tossing another man in a way to where it can be very unbeneficial. When you're grabbing somebody like this and you're trying to upper body throw them backwards, especially heavyweights, it's not like you land in a great position. Josh Hokit is a Division I wrestler at Fresno State, a Division I football player at Fresno State, and went to the NFL for the 49ers. He's a very good athlete, and I think he was an All-American at Fresno State with his wrestling as well. He's a very good athlete, and I think he's the much better MMA fighter, at least at this point in their careers, has a much better chance at becoming something in MMA. Freeman's 34. I watched his striking against Marek Buljo, and Marek Buljo is an absolute fraud. There's no reason he should have been in the UFC, and Freeman was very scared to let anything go. UFC debut jitters, okay, but then you look at Hokit's UFC debut, he let that thing fly, and he fucking knocked out the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Max Jimenez guy. I like Hokit here. I think he can knock out Denzel Freeman in round 1. I think Freeman, if you watch that Pinson fight, doesn't like to get hit. I think he's a little bit gun-shy when guys are aggressive in front of him. And I think if Hokit does land one clean shot, and it doesn't have to knock him out, but if he lands one clean shot, Freeman's probably gonna shell up and not like what's happening. And Hokit is a finisher. And if Hokit does get on top of you, nasty elbows, decent submission game as well, 3 submissions on his record. Give me Josh Hokit to get another W and get his first W in 2026. And what I believe is going to be a big 2026 for Josh Hokit. Lightweight bout, we got Michael Johnson taking on Alexander Hernandez. Hernandez comes in at minus 170 as the favorite. Johnson plus 145. Last year was quite the year for Michael Johnson. Very solid performance against Daniel Zellhuber as a huge underdog. Now he's stepping in as the underdog again. Not nearly as big as he was against Zellhuber, but 4-1 in the last 5 for Michael Johnson as a 39-year-old who's 16-15 in his UFC career. So damn near 500. The guy's had a bit of a resurgence. Now, he hasn't been fighting the best level of competition. You know, like before the Zellhuber win, it was Darius Flowers, Alan Patrick. Like, these are low-level fighters. And Michael Johnson is just a lot better. You know, even at 39 years of age, he's got so much experience at such a high level that if you can't go in there and just outclass him, you know, kind of like guys did in the past, but also if you can't catch him on the chin like Diego Ferreira did in his most recent loss, then Michael Johnson's going to be there. Like, he's going to be there. He's got fast hands, good footwork, pretty solid fight IQ. So this is going to be a tough test for Alexander Hernandez, but I think he does pass it. Now, Alexander Hernandez wasn't exactly a guy that people were believing in. I mean, he was a huge underdog to Chase Hooper in that knockout victory. And granted, it was, a couple seconds before the end of the first round. Could the ref have had let it go on? Sure. But I don't think Chase Hooper was going to have much success in that fight. Completely different fighter Chase Hooper is than Michael Johnson. But then in his next fight against Carlos Diego Ferreira, kind of a similar type of, veteran who's always a tough out, but can be had if you're really on that level. And Alexander Hernandez knocked him out in the second round. It seems like Alexander Hernandez has had some bit of a resurgence to his career. He's been fighting a little bit of a couple old guys, Carlos Diego Ferreira, Kurt Hollabaugh, and then a young, inexperienced guy. I guess I can't really call him inexperienced. Chase Hooper's win streak was extremely fraudulent. I'll just say that. It was fraudulent, and once he fought a guy that wasn't 40 years old, he got exposed. I'll just say it how it is. But Alexander Hernandez, resurging his career after leaving Factory X, he trains with Brandon Royval, and I think they just kind of do their own thing. But it seems like he likes that. It seems like he's had a bit of a new urgency when he's in the cage, or at least a little bit more of composure. Maybe it's maturity, who knows. But at 33 years of age, I'm like, he's kind of got to go now. Like, this is kind of his prime. And Michael Johnson at 39 is like, he's there for paychecks. Can he, catch some wins? Yeah, absolutely. On the feet, stylistically, I do kind of want to give the edge to Michael Johnson. But the thing is, like, I don't really think Hernandez is going to just stay in the pocket with Michael Johnson. Like, he's a guy that moves around. He's kind of been picking his shots pretty nicely. If you look at his KOs against Diego Ferreira, if you look at his KO against Chase Hooper, he's taking a more economical approach. And I talked about that with Ty Miller, but for a guy that's had gas issues, mostly at 145 in Hernandez, he's always had a problem gassing out. At 155, he's been a little bit better, but it seems like he's going through a process more, is what I should say. I think Hernandez wins here. On the ground, of course, I would give the advantage to Hernandez, and I think he could probably use that. So if you look at the striking, I think it could be close, but I give the power edge to Hernandez, the durability edge to Hernandez, because he's not a guy that gets clipped on the feet. It's usually if he's getting KO'd, it's because he's tired, which could happen. But then the grappling advantage, I'm going to give to Hernandez as well. Johnson's been sub 9 times. It's not like those grappling deficiencies have really came to light in his most recent fights, but have they been tested? Not really. Hernandez could probably test those. So give me Hernandez here for the early pick. At minus 170, like, I think it's about right. Kind of makes sense to me, but, I'm generally going to take the younger guy to get it done. Michael Johnson's had a good resurgence. Eventually, it's going to come off, and maybe this is the matchup where he looks his age. Flyweight bout, Alex Perez taking on Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson coming in at minus 205. Alex Perez plus 175. And Alex Perez, back and healthy. He's going to be fighting very often. He just fought in last November at UFC Qatar, I believe it was. And he looked great. He looked amazing. And then all of a sudden, Alex Perez snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. And he shoots a takedown on Asu Almabayev, and he gets guillotine choked. That's just what Alex Perez does. All right, just when you think Alex Perez is back, he will go in there and fuck it all up. He's 1-4 in his last 5. His only win is to Mateusz Nicolau. This guy is a very good fighter. I think Alex Perez is extremely skilled. Against Almabayev, I was a little bit worried for Almabayev because Almabayev needs to grapple to win. And Alex Perez's takedown defense was not good, or is very good. And it's like holding him down for Almabayev was not going to be good, is what I'm trying to say. And Perez just stuffed most of his takedowns. And when he did get taken down, he got back up. And he was kind of piecing Almabayev up on the feet, looking really good. Won the first 2 rounds and then got put in the guillotine choke. I think in this matchup against Charles Johnson, not usually a guy that's going to go out there and grapple. So this is a little bit of a different matchup for Perez compared to what he's been facing. The Muhammad Makayevs, the Almabayevs. Who else did he lose to? Tatsuro Taira, a guy that wants to grapple with you. So for the first time in a while, he's kind of facing another striker. And the last striker that he faced was Mateusz Nicolau. He knocked out Nicolau, but Nicolau's chin was definitely declining, and that one, the writing was on the wall for that one. Charles Johnson, not going to shoot a takedown is kind of what I'm trying to say. He's mostly going to be a stand-up striker. He had a huge KO victory his last time out against Lona Kavanaugh. We called that one as a big dog. Shout out to the Skullet getting it done there. In this one, I think it's going to be competitive, man. It's going to be competitive because Charles Johnson is just not really a guy that separates himself all that much. He's not really a guy that's usually in the favorite spot of minus 200 plus because he does take tough fights. He fought Ramazan Temirov, who did just pop for PEDs or whatever, some substance. And he was about to pick him. And that was Temirov's, second fight in the UFC. I don't really love Charles Johnson at minus 205, man. I don't really love it. Is he the better striker? To me, yes. But does he separate himself to the point where it's going to look like a clean Charles Johnson victory? I struggle to believe that. He's going to close fights with Zhalga Shumagulov, with Ode Osborne on the feet. Azat Maxim was a close fight. We saw what Azat Maxim's done in the UFC. I don't like that. Even Sumaderchi, very close fight. These are close fights. And I don't think Alex Perez is a guy that has chin issues. Look at one of his KO losses, most recent KO loss was against Tatsuro Taira, and that was a leg injury. The problem I have with Perez is, as I said at the beginning of the breakdown, seems like he can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory pretty quickly. So even if Perez is going in there looking pretty good, and Charles Johnson is a guy that can snatch the victory from the jaws of defeat, as we saw in the last time against Lona Kavanaugh. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Charles Johnson to get this one done, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout victory for Charles Johnson. And he's 35, man. He's 35, which is kind of crazy to see compared to an Alex Perez who's younger than him, but also feels like a lot more weathered than a Charles Johnson. So age does tend to play a factor, but you also have to look at how many miles are on the engine. And I feel like there's a lot more mileage on the engine of Alex Perez than Charles Johnson. So I'll take Charles Johnson to get it done. Could be a competitive fight, though. Light heavyweight bout, Nikita Krylov taking on Modestas Bukauskas. The fight that this is going to be a brutal one. It's going to be a brutal one. Bukauskas comes in at minus 148. Krylov plus 128. So right there, I'm like, hold on. If you told me 2 years ago Nikita Krylov was an underdog to Bukauskas, I would have laughed in your face and said, give me everything. I'm going to go take out everything I own. I'm going to sell my car. I'm going to sell everything. I'm going to put it on Nikita Krylov because underdog odds against Modestas Bukauskas seems crazy. But then you watch Nikita Krylov's last 2 fights, and the guy looks washed, man. The guy looks washed. So clearly, there's some biasy baked into this line based on the narrative of Nikita Krylov possibly just being mega washed. So as a UFC bettor and as an analyst here, we got to kind of figure out if that narrative is true. And I'm not quite certain at this point, but what I will say is I've never really been a huge believer in Modestas Bukauskas, and I haven't been a big believer in his recent win streak. He's 4-1 in his last 5. But 3 of those wins I think are complete gimmies. Complete gimmies. Number 1, Marcin Prachnio. Terrible fighter. I'm going to say a terrible fighter in comparison to his counterparts in the division. Rafael Cerqueira hasn't won a fight in the UFC. Every fight that he's fought, he's gotten absolutely smoked. Paul Craig retired after that fight. That was the most recent fight. Paul Craig has not won a fight in quite some time. He's been figured out. His chin has been declining at a very rapid pace. And, Paul Craig's just not what he was when he was beating the Jamal Hills, beating the Nikita Krylovs, beating the Magomed Ankalaevs. Like, he just doesn't have that Hail Mary shit anymore. So he retired. And then his 4th win is Ion Cutelaba. And I'm not saying Ion Cutelaba's bad, but if you watch the fight, not a lot happened, man. Not a lot happened. And there's one guy in the UFC light heavyweight division that's like kind of a wild card, and that's Ion Cutelaba. And Cutelaba got lulled into like a boring kickboxing fight with Bukauskas, and it ended up in a split decision. So that's his 4-fight win streak. I think that's terrible. Those are 3 like the worst guys in the division, and then a wild card in Ion Cutelaba, and it was a split decision where a lot of people think Cutelaba got robbed. So Nikita Krylov's last 2 losses to Dominic Reyes and Bogdan Guskov don't really look that bad, man. They don't look that bad because Guskov went to a draw with Jan Blachowicz. Is Guskov a bad fighter? No, Guskov's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. Caught him with the shot, put him out. Dominic Reyes, is he a bad fighter? No. Damn near beat John Jones. We know the skills are there. It's just the question with Dominic Reyes' chin. If you can crack it or not. Nikita Krylov didn't crack him with a punch. He got cracked with a punch. I don't like how Nikita Krylov has been fighting because what is his best asset? It's getting guys to the ground, using his grappling, using his submission package. But on the feet, like, he's also somewhat dangerous. In this matchup, I wouldn't want him to be there. But even if he is there, I don't really think he's going to get outclassed by Bukauskas. My worry would be, is Nikita Krylov's chin completely washed? Like, could Bukauskas catch him with a shot and then Krylov does the stanky leg and then he gets finished up? Like, yeah, that could happen. But I just think the much better fighter is Nikita Krylov. Maybe Bukauskas has made some leaps and bounds, but I've just never really thought he's been that great. And the level of competition that he's been facing is not good. So I'm going to take Nikita Krylov for the early pick here as the dog. If he's washed, he's washed. But I'll take a shot on him. Moving on. Middleweight bout here. We got Ateba Gautier coming in at -800, taking on Andre Pulyaev. I'm a big fan of Ateba Gautier, but at -800, there's no way you can play him. There's no way you can play him because we've seen crazier shit happen. Lay off the -800, and you're probably going to have to be looking for some props. Let's break the fight down. Gautier, nasty striker, extremely powerful, 6'4", 81-inch reach, built like Francis Ngannou. They call him the mini Francis Ngannou. But I don't think the guy's grappling is very good. He hasn't fought anybody in the UFC that's been able to expose it. He's fought 3 times in the UFC, and he's won each time in the first round by knockout. But if you look at his Contender Series fight, his initial takedown defense is not terrible, but if he does get put on his back, he has nothing. He can't get up. So that's something you got to keep in mind. Is Andre Pulyaev the guy to take him down and smother him? I don't really think so. Pulyaev, 6'4", kind of a lengthy kickboxer, Russian kickboxer at that. I believe he trains with, is it Koreshkov? Trains with some good Russian fighter. I forget the name. But he's 10-3 in his professional career, 1-1 in the UFC. His UFC debut against CLD, give him a pass. Like, that's a tough debut. And he didn't even get knocked out against CLD, who's been kind of knocking guys out. His win against Nick Klein is not very impressive. Like, Nick Klein's not a good fighter, and Nick Klein's kind of a round 1 fighter and then drops off. Kind of just the first 2.5 minutes, he's a good fighter, and then he drops off. And Pulyaev, I didn't really like what happened in that first round with Nick Klein, because if that happens against Gautier, Pulyaev, I would find it hard to believe Pulyaev doesn't get knocked out, because he seems like a frail, kind of fragile man. But I do think Pulyaev could give him some troubles if the fight extends. Like, if this fight gets out of round 1, I'm going to struggle to have a lot of promise for Gautier, because that means something went wrong. That means either Pulyaev got a takedown, ended up on top in round 1, or Pulaev's either cage pushing him or something like that. So, of course I'm going to be taking Gautier here, but it's minus 800. I don't think there's a ton of value on that. I think Pulaev's a solid fighter, but I also don't like how Pulyaev, his reactionary defense is not good. It's tall man defense. Leans back, and when you lean back like that, if you get a striker that'll follow up with combinations, kind of like Gautier will, and he'll mix in some head kicks as well, I don't like that. I just think Ataba's too much of a specimen here to not knock him out in round 1. But like I said, if it does get out of round 1, things could get dicey. Give me Gautier for the early pick. Should be a KO one. Bantamweight bout here. We got Umar Nurmagomedov coming in at minus 1,500, taking on Davis and Figueiredo, sitting at plus 700. When I was looking at the lines for this fight, Umar Nurmagomedov at minus 1,500 jumped off the board to me, because I didn't think he was going to be this big. I thought maybe minus 600, minus 700, but minus 1,500, is there a big difference between minus 700 and minus 1,500 when it comes to implied win probability? No. But as far as, the return, it's a big difference. So the line is super wide in favor of Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm not really going to take too much time on this fight, because I'm going to be picking Umar. I think it's kind of an easy fight for Umar. What is Davis Figueiredo going to be able to show up and do to Umar? Not much, man. Not much. Davison's 38. He's been to the top, had his title run at 125, and the whole Moreno thing, and then he moved up weight classes, won a few fights, and then took a fight against Petr Yan and lost. So, I mean, what is he going to be able to do with Umar? I just don't really see anything. I guess he could clip him. Like, we know Figgy has power, but we've seen Umar get hurt multiple times, or at least get hit and dropped. But then what happens immediately? He takes him down, and then he just smothers him. So Umar is the pick here. I didn't expect it to be this big, but I can understand why, man. I can understand why, because Umar is just not going to lose to a 38-year-old Figueiredo. As far as, like, how do I think the fight goes, I think Umar probably does use his grappling, probably does find a choke. But if he does it, like, it's probably just going to be a 30-27 grind him out type of victory. The thing with Figgy is, at this point at 38 years of age, how hard is he really going to try? Is he going to try like Mario Batista? Like, if shit goes sideways for Mario Batista Mario Batista is young enough that he's going to dog that shit out. But if shit goes sideways for Deiveson Figueiredo, I don't think at 38 years of age, he's going to try to dog that shit out. So I think Umar might be able to finish him. Let's move on. Flyweight bout here in the women's division. We got Natalia Silva coming in at minus 450. Taking on Rose Namajunas at plus 350. Wow. Those are some big odds. Now, I am a Natalia Silva truther, but minus 450 is pretty fucking wide, man. Rose Namajunas, to me, is one of the best, or at least the most well-rounded mixed martial artists that we've seen in women's MMA. She's an elite striker. It's not flashy, but she's very technical, and she doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Solid wrestler. A girl that took down Zhang Weili many times and was able to win fights that way with her wrestling. Grappling. She's a very solid grappler. Out-grappled Amanda Hebos. Very solid grappler. Out-grappled Miranda Maverick. She can also be put in some bad positions on the ground, and she can also get hit on the feet. So overall, she's a very solid mixed martial artist, and she's not that old. She's 33. The problem here is I think Natalia Silva is just going to be a little bit too fast and a little bit too physical to where when Rose Namajunas, I think the fight's probably going to be mostly striking. I don't think Rose is going to be able to implement a ton of grappling here, and Natalia Silva is not a girl that implements much offensive wrestling at all. She's just a very elite striker, and she has elite footwork, and she's physical, great takedown defense. So I can understand why Natalia Silva would be the favorite here. But how I think the fight goes and where the odds are kind of different when it comes down to that. How I think the fight goes is Natalia Silva is kind of a counter striker that needs someone to move forward like Alexa Grasso did in her last fight. Needs someone to be in her face to where she can hit you and run, kick, throw a combination, step off, get out of there. She's very good at fighting off the back foot. And Rose isn't exactly a girl that's going to go out there and maraud like Alexa Grasso, but she will be there for you to hit her. But she'll also hit you with some counters. So I think the striking exchanges will be interesting, but there's no doubt in my mind Natalia Silva is going to be hitting Rose Namajunas much harder. And those shots will be much more impactful, and those shots will rain home with the judges much more than what Rose Namajunas is landing. So then it comes down to the grappling. So can Rose get some grappling going here? I don't think so, man. I don't think so. Natalia Silva's takedown defense is elite. On the ground, I think she could possibly have some deficits. We've seen her in some tough spots against Teresa Bleda, but I don't really see Rose getting those takedowns with ease, and I don't really think she's just going to wash her on the mat. I think Natalia Silva would just work her way back to the cage, or just, if she's already on the cage, just get to a knee and then get back up and then dig the underhooks and get out and then get back to what she was doing. So, yeah, I think Natalia Silva should be the favorite, and I do think she's going to win, but minus 450 is fucking wide, man. It's going to be a tough year. There's a lot of favorites on this card that are wide that I don't think should be that wide, but I do think should be, a decent-sized favorite. Natalia Silva was just, minus 250 against Alexa Grasso in what, to me, was a much easier matchup than a Rose Namajunas. Now, did she look minus 250 in the fight? No, she looked minus 1,000, minus 800. So now in this one, she's kind of overpricing her, but maybe it does. Maybe it does look like a clean 30-27 for Natalia Silva. We'll see. Give me Natalia Silva for the pick. Let's move on. Before we get into the main card, I want to remind you, if you want all my bets for this first card in 2026, hop on the Home of Fight Picks premium membership on Winnable. We're positive in the profit the last 3 years, positive 86.40 units. Last year in 2025, use code HeyJive, get you a 5-day free trial. And not included in this 86 0.40 units in profit total is the DFS long shots that I give out as well. And if you tailed those in 2025, you would be up 193.44 units if you put 1 unit on every single one of those long shots for a 205% ROI. So you got 86.4 units in profit in 2025. And then if you add the long shots that I gave out in 2025, you'd be up another 193.44 units with a 205% ROI. So if you want all those bets, there's some proof for you as well. Those are all slips from last year. 100x payout, 35.62x payout, 20x payout. We hit many of those. If you want all those bets, hop in the Home of Fight Picks premium membership on Winnable. Use code HeyJive for a 5-day free trial. Let's keep it moving to the main card. We got a featherweight bout here. Arnold Allen taking on Jean Silva. Jean Silva coming in at minus 275. Arnold Allen plus 235. The 20-3 Englishman steps in here. 3-2 in his last 5. His last win looked pretty decent. But I will say this. Arnold Allen has not been active. The guy's never active. And I hate that for him because he's a good fighter. You know, he's been losing. He's lost to Max Holloway and Movsar Evloev. Those are his last 2 losses. Like, those are not bad losses at all. And some could argue that he did pretty well in that Evloev fight. And if there wasn't that rule thing with the hands being on the ground, things could have played out differently is what I'm trying to say. I like Arnold Allen. He's just not very active. Maybe he's, had some, he's always injured. Seems like he's always injured with his hands getting broken or whatever. But he's got a tough test in front of him because we know how much of a psycho Jean Silva is. But Jean Silva coming off a loss might be more psychotic than one should be because that fight he had with Diego Lopez, one of the best fights of the year, he got knocked out. To me, he got knocked out because he was fighting with his ego. So maybe in this one, it's going to tell a lot about who Jean Silva is. This fight will, because he lost that fight because of his ego. He got pissed that Diego Lopez kind of whooped him in the first round, and then once he started to find his range and start to put a beating on Diego Lopez, he got way over aggressive, and that's when Diego Lopez made him pay. So now in his next fight, does he fight more conservative? Does he fight with more poise? Or does he go out there and want to get his win back? Does he want to go out there and just put on a big KO victory early on so he can feel that feeling that he's had for however many fights in a row? He was on a long win streak. It's going to be interesting. What I'll say about this stylistically is I don't think there's many guys in the featherweight division that can match Jean Silva when it comes to just pure striking. I don't think there's many. And if there is, they're probably a much different striker than what Arnold Allen is. I think Arnold Allen's a solid striker, but I don't think he's going to be able to deal with the reads, the timing, and the power that Jean Silva has on the feet. I think he's going to have to mix it up. And do I trust him to mix it up? Not really. Now, Jean Silva's 29. He may look like he's like 35. I think he looks old, especially when he doesn't have a full shaved head. But he's 29, so I think he's entering his prime here. Coming off a loss, first UFC loss, I think he'll be motivated. I think he'll come in here and outstrike Arnold Allen on the feet. I don't really see Arnold Allen mixing in anything that's going to give Jean Silva problems. So I think Jean Silva's going to win. Is he going to find a knockout? I don't know, because Arnold Allen seems like he's got a brick head. You guys never been finished. Seen him take some shots. But Jean Silva's a guy that does a lot of damage, mixes up his weapons with his knees, his kicks, his elbows, his fists, of course. So I wouldn't be shocked if Arnold Allen is left in, a pretty bloody situation. But at the same time, we're talking about a minus 275 favorite. So, of course, he should win. I'm going to pick him to win. Should he be this big of a favorite? I think it's kind of accurate. I would probably have to go back and watch some more Arnold Allen film and just get a little bit refresh of how he deals with certain types of strikers because he hasn't fought in very long. So also got to deal with the ring rust and stuff. John Silva's the pick. It's a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. Anytime I can watch John Silva fight, I like it. But I think it's just a better striker here. It's just a better striker and definitely more devastating if you look at how they're getting their wins. Let's move on. Heavyweight bout here. We got Waldo Cortes Acosta taking on Derek the Black Beast Lewis. D-Lew coming in at plus 270 against Waldo, set at minus 320. Right off the bat, man. I mean, minus 320 on Waldo Cortes Acosta is pricey, man. It's a very hefty price tag. Waldo was an underdog to Ante Dalia. He was an underdog to Pavlovich. He was I think he was an underdog to Spivak. Maybe a pick'em to Spivak. And he was what, a minus 150 favorite to Shamil Gaziev. I know he took the fight on short notice and he had to fly across the world, but still, man. Waldo had a big 2025. He fought 5 times. This is his 6th fight in less than 12 months, I think, because I think his first fight in 2025 was March, maybe. So 6th fight in less than 12 months for Waldo Cortes Acosta, and he's a minus 320 favorite. Now, obviously, with heavyweights, they don't got to cut weight, but they're also taking, shots from big guys. So that's somewhat concerning. Waldo's never been KO'd, though. The guy does have a brick head. I will say that. The shots that I've seen him take, it doesn't even look like he's affected in any way. The thing with Waldo that's kind of thrown me off is he was mostly a decision guy. If you look at it, his UFC career, which is 11 fights, which is a lot because he hasn't been in the UFC that long. 11 fights. He didn't get his first KO until he fought Lucas Dresky. And he KO'd him by hitting him in the back of the head because Lucas Dresky was turned around. Was it intentional? No. But still KO'd him because he punched him in the back of the head. And then he KO'd Ryan Spann, who, of course, gassed out. And then he KO'd Ante Dalia because Dalia had the huge adrenaline dump. And then he KO'd Shamil Gaziev. Those are his 2 most recent wins. It seems to me like Waldo's a little bit more willing to let his hands fly. If you look at his last 2 fights, it just seems like he's more willing to just sit down and throw. And if you're going to do that with Derek Lewis, you're giving him his only chance to win fights. Because that's how Derek Lewis wins fights, is he knocks you out. Because he's got huge power, and he's been knocking dudes out for the last, 20 years doing that. So that's my concern with Waldo Cortes Acosta. Because, if they just go out there and fight like they should, I think Waldo does win because I would trust Waldo to outscore Derek Lewis in a 15-minute kickboxing battle. I also would trust Waldo to maybe mix in some takedowns because, most of the guys will try to wrestle Derek Lewis because they don't want to deal with his power. And some people have been successful with it. Some people haven't. But also Derek Lewis has kind of mixed in some wrestling in some of his fights as well. And Waldo's a much younger version of a heavyweight fighter. So, of course, I got to favor Waldo Cortes Acosta. But I did lay out a path to where I think he could end up giving Derek Lewis his path to victory, which is, let's throw. Let's throw. That's pretty much all he did against Shamil Gaziev. And maybe that was because he took the fight on short notice. Maybe he had no respect for Shamil Gaziev. But he just kind of went in there like, let's fucking throw down, dude. I'm the better athlete. I got more power. I'm more durable than you. And you're going to go to sleep. Which he could do that to Derek Lewis. But the line is wide. I'm going to take Waldo Cortes Acosta to win it. I do think he's going to end up getting his hand raised here. But if he gives Derek Lewis the shot, I wouldn't be shocked. All right, feature bout. We got Sean O'Malley taking on Song Yadong. Song Yadong coming in at plus 170. Sean O'Malley minus 200. Coming off back-to-back losses to Murad Dvalishvili, the man that just lost his belt last month. gets the Yadong treatment. It seems like there's some beef brewing here because Sean O'Malley showed up to, the press conference, the seasonal press conference, with a COVID mask, which is interesting. He said it was because he wanted to go back to the COVID days where he was, dicing dudes up. But of course, you look at his opponent, you would think differently, right? Song Yadong, 11-3-1 in the UFC. So he's got more UFC experience by one fight than Sean O'Malley, but not nearly the level of experience that what Sean O'Malley has been at. He's been in 5 straight title fights. We got Eljo, Cheeto, Rob. So 4 straight title fights for Sean O'Malley. He did have the injury, which I didn't like, after the Merab fight, the first one when he lost. He got surgery on it, and then they made the rematch, which I didn't like. I just didn't think that was a smart idea for Sean O'Malley to go back into a rematch with Merab Dvalishvili off of hip surgery. Didn't really make sense. So now this will be, 9-10 months later. I do think it's a much different matchup, of course. But I do think it's a very winnable fight for Sean O'Malley. I don't really think Song Yadong does anything amazing. I think he's solid overall. Fast hands, fast movement, very tough. But the thing with that is, when you're always in guys' faces, that's kind of how Sean O'Malley cooks. Sean O'Malley is a guy that uses awkward footwork, but has very quick twitch actions that kind of throw you off. And if you're a guy that kind of relies on your fast explosiveness, he can use his fast elusiveness to kind of pick you apart. And I think Sean O'Malley probably does that. Is Song Yadong going to mix in some wrestling here? That would be the concern for me with O'Malley. I don't think he does it to a level where Sean O'Malley can't overcome it. He's not going to just take down Sean O'Malley and hold him down. I've seen Song, do that against Chris Gutierrez. He did take down Petr Yan a couple times, but those were well-timed takedowns, and he didn't really hold him down very, very effectively. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Sean O'Malley. So I think Sean's going to be able to keep his range, use his footwork, use his length, and outscore Song Yadong to a decision victory here. It's 3 rounds, and I think in 3-round fights, Sean O'Malley does pretty well because he can get off to a quick start, and once he starts building on you, it's pretty tough to overcome that unless you are able to take him down and hold him down. And I don't think Song's going to be able to do that. So give me Sean O'Malley for the early pick to get it done, probably by decision. It's going to be an interesting one, though, to see Sean O'Malley try to bounce back after those title fight losses. And in the co-main event, we got the women's bantamweight title on the line. We got Kayla Harrison coming in at -220. Taking on Amanda Nunes, sitting at +185. First time in a while that I've seen Amanda Nunes at plus money. And it's been a while since that has actually happened. But if there's one girl that you're going to make her an underdog to, it's probably going to be Kayla Harrison. Amanda Nunes. It's been off for 2+ years. Last fight was against Irene Aldana, and she defended the belt and retired. And it wasn't much of a fight. It went 5 rounds. It went to a decision. She kind of took down Irene Aldana, and I don't want to say worked her on the mat, but she was just too big, too physical for an Irene Aldana who is very boxing heavy and doesn't have much of a takedown defense. So that's kind of been the story of Amanda Nunes' career. As of recently, it's like these girls are just not even close to her level. But then she did have the slip up against Juliana Pena, and she made Juliana Pena a world champion because she fell apart in round 2. And how did she fall apart? She started getting punched in the mouth, and then she kind of just gave up. And then in the second fight in the rematch, we found out who was actually the better fighter, and it was Amanda Nunes. The worry here with Amanda Nunes would be the time off. What's her motivation? Is she going to have ring rust? And those are probably all yeses. Is she going to have ring rust? Yes. Is she probably not going to be the form of what she was 3 years ago? Yes. So those are obviously reasons why you would make her an underdog. Kayla Harrison's been the girl that has been active. She's been making the weight. She's been in fights. She just dominated Juliana Pena. She should realistically not be a 135er because she's freaking huge. Kayla Harrison used to fight at 155 in the PFL. Her only loss was to Larissa Pacheco, who I would say is kind of a similar prototype to Amanda Nunes, but she beat Larissa Pacheco twice before she eventually lost to her. Pacheco's kind of a brawler, physical Brazilian lesbian. And in the third fight with Kayla Harrison, I think Kayla took that fight a little bit lightly, knowing that she had beaten her twice, and she kind of let it slip away from her. Did she get dominated by Pacheco? No. Did she get KO'd by Pacheco? No. It was a close fight, but it was 3-2 to Pacheco, and Kayla kind of struggled to just overwhelm a huge girl in Larissa Pacheco. So when she came to the UFC at 135, the question was, could she make the weight? Was her cardio going to be good? And was she going to show any signs of like having a bad chin at 135? And so far, we haven't seen any of that. So can Amanda Nunes exploit that? From what I've heard, I trained at Boca Boxing in Boca Raton, Florida. And Amanda Nunes' boxing coach was my boxing coach. And he said Amanda Nunes is the only girl that he's ever seen that truly hits like a dude. If Amanda Nunes is going to win this fight, I think it's probably going to be within the first round or two. I don't really see her going, life and death with Kayla Harrison for 5 rounds. If it does get past round 2, then things could get dicey because that means Kayla Harrison's probably going in there and having some wrestling success, but maybe it's not enough to get to a dominant position. But then maybe she's starting to wear down the older Amanda Nunes, and then the finish could come. Or maybe that means Amanda Nunes is keeping the fight on the feet and trying to avoid these grappling scenarios or trying to avoid these clinch scenarios on the cage. Because I don't really think Kayla Harrison's takedowns are amazing. I don't really think her wrestling is something that can't be stopped. But I do think it's just better than a lot of these girls. Like, you look at her against Ketlen Vieira. She did struggle to take down Ketlen Vieira a few times. For a lot of that fight. But the thing is, when she does get you down, she's very tough to get up from. Very tough to get up from. Like, you have to be a very good athlete, and you have to have the cardio to back it up. Like, you can't just be bucking and squirming because she's just a lot bigger than you, a lot stronger than you, and she knows how to manipulate you in a way to where you can't separate so that you can get back up. And I think that's probably going to be the deciding factor here. I think Kayla Harrison's going to be able to get those takedowns, and when she does get her down, I think that's going to zap the life, but zap the motivation for Amanda Nunes to be like, did I really want to come back to this? I don't know. I think she thinks she's going to come in here and probably knock out Kayla Harrison within the first couple, which could happen. But if it doesn't, I'm going to trust the woman that's the champion right now. If shit needs to get dogged out, I think Kayla Harrison's probably the more likely one to dog it out. And she has the thing that in MMA, if you can't stop it, it's going to be a long night. Or if you're willing to take the door, it could be a quick night. So give me a Kayla Harrison for the pick here. If this was Amanda Nunes 3 or 4 years ago, I'd definitely be more enticing at plus 185. But I got to go with Kayla Harrison to defend the title. Lightweight interim title in the main event. Please, before I get to this main event breakdown, like the video for me, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 30,000 subscribers. When we do that, we'll do some type of giveaway, of course. And we're kicking off this new year in a fun way. Justin Gaethje coming in at plus 205, taking on Paddy Pimblett at minus 240. It's another one of these fights. It's like, well, 3 years ago, you told me Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. And Paddy Pimblett's a minus 240 favorite. It's just crazy. It's crazy how MMA works and how fast stuff can change. You know, Paddy Pimblett just last fight against Michael Chandler. Some people were saying Michael Chandler's gonna knock him out, like it's gonna be easy. Not the case. He actually made Michael Chandler look career worst, and I don't know that he's gonna make Justin Gaethje look any better. You know, like Justin Gaethje's 37. He's 3-2 in his last 5. 2 of those wins come to Rafael Fiziev, who's basically a pure striker, and Fiziev was still able to take him down. If you're watching this video, you probably know how both guys fight, right? Like Paddy Pimblett is mainly a grappler, but he can still strike a little bit. And Justin Gaethje's mainly a striker, but he can also wrestle a little bit. Is Paddy Pimblett going to win a striking battle against Justin Gaethje? Probably not. But the threat of the takedown is what is going to make it interesting. And Paddy Pimblett's not a guy that has terrible footwork. Like he does move pretty well. And I think that movement works well for him to set up his grappling because he'll stretch you horizontally, so to the side. He'll move sideways. He'll go in and out. He'll hit you with a kick and then change angles. And Gaethje is more of a flat-footed plotter, wants you to stand in front of him and let's slug it out. Let's slug it out because he's got tight boxing combinations. He's got hard leg kicks that if you're not moving around, if he hits you with those leg kicks, you're going to feel them and you're going to be damaged from them. I think the striking will be interesting. Because Paddy has a very good chin. Paddy has a very good chin, and I've seen it throughout his whole UFC career where the guy holds his chin up here. But it's not pretty, but he does have a good chin, and he does have some power because he throws with power. So if Gaethje at 37 years of age gets caught with something from Paddy, I'm not putting it out of the possibility that Gaethje gets hurt by it. You know, Gaethje's been stunned multiple times by multiple different fighters. And not only that, we can't forget at UFC 300, this man was flat out cold on the canvas not that long ago. So, yeah, it would be like, what, almost 2 years, but still, like those are things that you get put a flat cold on your face like that. That's not something that ever goes away. Like you're going to be feeling that for the rest of your life, or it's going to be impacting you for the rest of your life, whether you're able to feel it on a day-to-day basis or not. Paddy Pimblett, never been KO'd, has been submitted once, but that was a long time ago. So I think the durability edge is on Paddy Pimblett. And if the fight hits the ground, I think it could be over quickly. I don't think Gaethje's a terrible grappler, but you look at how he's losing. Triangle choke from Khabib Nurmagomedov. You know who's got a good triangle choke? Paddy Pimblett. Rear naked choke against Charles Oliveira. You know who's got a good rear naked choke, a good back take? Paddy Pimblett. You know who's 31, 6 years younger than Justin Gaethje? Paddy Pimblett. So you see where I'm going with this one. I think Paddy Pimblett becomes the interim lightweight champion, knocks off Justin Gaethje. Also narrative-based, like I don't love that Justin Gaethje basically forced the UFC to give him a title fight or he was going to retire. Whenever you're talking about retirement and then you get put into a title fight, don't like it. Don't like it because that tells me like you're at a point where if you're not the champion, you don't want to do it anymore. So if he gets put in the cage with Paddy and stuff starts to go sideways, I don't really trust him to fucking dog it out, man. I don't. And Paddy's a damn good grappler. And I'm telling you right now, if Paddy, we saw what Paddy did to Chandler. Chandler's not a guy that gets worked on the ground. He survived everything against Charles Oliveira, and Paddy made that guy the ref had to step in because he was doing him so bad. So that kind of mindset going into a fight, a title fight nonetheless, if shit starts to not go your way, I don't trust you to dog it out. And I'm going to trust Paddy Pimblett to reach something that he's worked his entire career at, that he's getting his first crack at, to go out there and give me the best Paddy Pimblett. And I think Paddy gets a lot of slack because he talks funny and kind of a bit of a goofball in some scenarios. But from what I've seen from this guy since his UFC debut is a lot of maturity and a lot of like just dialing it the fuck in. And we've seen the improvements. We've seen him go up the ladder. Has he had a tough road to the championship? No, not at all. But the thing is, he's not getting the toughest opponent at 155 for this interim title fight. He's getting Justin Gaethje. The toughest opponent would be Ilya Topuria, Arman Tsarukyan. Hell, even a Max Holloway would be a much tougher fight than Justin Gaethje at this point in his career. So give me Paddy Pimblett to get it done for the early pick. Appreciate y'all for watching. Like the video before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Can't wait for this year. Feels good to be back. We'll be back very soon with some more content. Till next time, hey, Jot Picks.